everybody, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. Yes, we are back. I am RM, and of course, we have with us today Russ Whitfield. Russ, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing great. As I was telling you, I'm a little tired. Like I slept at least 12 hours, but
Mhm.
I feel a little tired. It might be the cool fall, autumn like weather that's happening right now. And that could be affecting me, but I'm accustomed to 80 degrees. It was 80 degrees last week, Russ. And right now the thermometer says it's like 70. It's too cold for right now, as far as I'm concerned. And guys, please remember to check out Russ's Amazon storefront to check out his Gladiatrix series. You won't be disappointed. But Russ, what is the weather like where you are?
Boiling. It was boiling yesterday, and today it's cloudy and raining. Like I was on the balcony last night. I was having a phone conversation with someone, um, and she was asking me because she's coming to England shortly, and she's like, "Do I need to bring a coat?" And I said, "Well, not today, but you might, you might do tomorrow. Like I really don't know. It's very very changeable." So yeah, that's all. So I don't know, man. It's horrible today. But then look, I'm looking out now and I can see like the sun's sort of burning through the clouds. So it's going to be changeable, I reckon.
Yeah, it is that time of year where I guess this is to be expected, but I'm in denial. I don't like the end of summer. I always think it's so sad that summer has to end. So here we are. And let's say hello to some people here. Uh,
There are people here. Wow.
yes.
Okay.
And Russ, I noticed you got your Huel shirt on.
I
Um,
have. I've bought Huel and they send you a free T-shirt with it. But I was just saying backstage now. I haven't been particularly lax with my training, but I haven't been as intense as I want to be. So I thought, I'm really going to get back on my horse tomorrow. But the Huel t-shirt's just a coincidence. It's basically because I spilled coffee all over my Guns N' Roses t-shirt that someone gave me, so I put the Huel one on before the show. But yeah, um, I have the shake, the milkshakes.
Well, I mean, it does serve a purpose because you and I have been talking about increasing our fitness, becoming more fit, eating healthier. And so you and I are still committed to this challenge.
Hmm.
And I'm committed to. I actually did order Huel as well. I ordered the food. There's food choices that you can get. And I ordered two things. I ordered the macaroni and cheese, and I ordered some kind of a curry dish. And I'm in love with the macaroni and cheese. So I'm definitely going to be eating that. But they also have a green drink that I ordered as well, and that looks amazing. I haven't tried it yet, but so it's funny that we're both on the same diet
Let me
kind of
have a look at
plan.
this Huel green drink.
Yeah,
Right,
it's a
I'll
huge,
check that out after this show.
yeah. And so let's say hello to everybody here who's been so patiently waiting. I want to say hello to Retro Nerd Girl.
Ah, my
Hey.
resident crush. Hello, Retro.
I Retro Nerd Girl and I were up. I had saw you last night, Retro. It was good to see you. And as you guys know, Retro and I do stream together occasionally as well. Always good to see you, Retro Nerd Girl. Hope you're having a wonderful morning today. And Norwegian Kryptonian is here.
Oh, hey, man.
Hello, Norwegian Kryptonian. Good to see you too. Tom Jr. Jackson is also here, guys.
Good
Hi,
morning,
Tom.
Tom.
My moderator, collaborator, good friend. We are all goof people. Dino Dinosaur is here. Says good afternoon, Artem, Russ, and Tom.
Is it Dino or Dino? I'm going with Dino.
All right, Dino Dino, and it's good to see you. Brogu is here.
Hey, Brogu.
Hi, Brogu. Says, good morning, everyone. Aw, so good to see you, Brogu. Bonzo Kilborn is here, saying, cheers, mates. Hello, Bonzo.
Hey, Bonzo.
We also have Mikey Lito. Thank you, Mikey Lito, who points out that it is a cool autumn day in Long Island. But Mikey Lito, it's too soon. It's too soon for autumn, right, Mikey Lito? Don't you want those 80-degree temperatures back? My goodness. I'd like just even one more 80-degree day if you ask me. But good to see you, Mikey Lito. Mario Lopez is here.
Oh, hey, Mario.
Mario, how have you been? Hope you and your family are well. So good to see you here on Sunday Brunch. Darth Plato's here, says, hey, gang.
Hey, man.
and says, "Sup, Russ?" And of course, as you guys know, Darth Plato and I are going to be continuing our historical movie reviews on Thursdays. This Thursday, we're going to be doing Hamburger Hill, guys. Hamburger
Oh,
Hill.
I love Hamburger Hill.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I used to love. I watched it so many times when it first came out. Like we had it. It was like you had to do the double bill of Platoon and Hamburger Hill, but Hamburger Hill wasn't as good. I didn't think the acting was as good in Hamburger Hill as it was in Platoon, which is such a good film.
Yeah. Maybe Darth Plato, depending upon what Darth Plato wants to do, maybe we'll do that. Russ, you could join us if you wish.
It depends on what time it is, mate.
It is at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, it's going to be late for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah. All right. Well, the invitation is always open to
Thank
you.
you. I haven't seen it in years though. Hamburger Hill.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while. Mark Spector's avatar is here, says, woke up early for brunch. Yeah. I like that notion, Mark Spector's avatar. And Blazing Asian is here. Hi.
Hey,
Says, morning, everyone. Nathan Trujillo is here. What's up, my homie GSLOL? Well, hello, Nathan. It looks like you got the oops, that was my phone. Looks like you've got the EDM hands up in a party kind of thing. I like that. It may not be that, but it looks like that to me. Um, and Tom is saying, we can thank our lucky stars we didn't get that hurricane. We were so lucky. Yeah, that's true, Tom.
yeah,
Uh,
did it get to Maine? I heard it was going to hit Maine, but one
I
of my
think
friends said.
I think it did. It was substantially less strong by the time it hit it. I think maybe because the waters might be colder. I think it was
Mhm.
so it was not, as an intense storm, which is great. I don't want any storm to hit them, but if it has to be one, it was much less severe. So I haven't seen any reports about what's going on up there. So I'm not an informed person, but maybe Tom can let us know. And it is good that it bypassed us. Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington is here. Says, thank you for watching one of my videos, RM. 2000 Ks on my Oktoberfest beer reviews. Yes, I did watch that. And thank you for doing those beer reviews. I think those are always good to do. I do like to see stuff like that, Gary. Um, and I'm so glad it got 2000 reviews. That's wonderful. We hope you are well, Gary. So glad that you are here. And Stavros is here.
All right, Stavros.
Hi, Stavros. How are you? Stavros says, "What a week it has been." My goodness, Stavros, you're making me curious about that. Also, Stubble is here. Stubble McShave. Hi, Stubble. Stubble
Hmm.
and I are doing the Wheel of Time review. We're going to be doing it on Friday on the Burr Network, so that is coming up. Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to be reviewing more episodes of the series. So if you guys are into the Wheel of Time, you should check it out. Thalia is here. Hi, Thalia. Says hello and
Hey,
good
Thalia.
morning. And she's got her cup of coffee there and some beautiful sunshine there. It is always nice to see that. Who else do we have this morning? JH Edits is here. Says, what's up, guys?
Hey.
And of course, Irene Jobson is here, who says, well, good morning, everybody, especially the lovely, seductive RM. And Eric?
Hello.
So good to see you. Mighty Orbots is here. Wow, a lot of people are here this morning. So good to see you all. Says 9. 9?
Don't know.
Mighty Orbots, we're so glad to see you. It is such a beautiful day today. Um, no, you do not have to be high. I am a straight edge raver. So that means that I don't use drugs when I go to EDM events because I like to dance for if the event is 8 hours, I want to dance for 8 hours. If it's a 24-hour event, I want to dance for 24 hours. If it's a 3-day event, I want to dance for 3 days. So I don't necessarily want to get high or anything like that when I'm dancing. I just want to listen to the music. So the answer is no, you don't have to be high to enjoy EDM. And of course, my mother
Does
has
she
had
get high to enjoy EDM?
no, she doesn't, but she's had no choice but to listen to it because I play it when she's here. So she's had to endure many hours of it, without being under the influence of anything. And she's just enjoys it. So even she is a straight edge raver now. Um, also, Gary Bandis Sandwich Worthington said the costumes of Wheel of Time are great. And I said, yes, it's Isis Musadin who is doing the costumes for that. And that's the designer that I was talking to you about, Russ,
Yeah,
for
yesterday. Yeah,
time.
was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember.
It was one of those days, Russ. And we were talking, and I said, she's so incredible, Isis Musadin. And I really would like to interview her at some point and ask her about seasons 1 and 2. She's worked on a lot of high profile films as well.
Mm.
So I just love her work. And yeah, she's an incredible costume designer. And I think she really is adding a lot of flavor and fantasy to the Wheel of Time television series. So hats off to her for the fantastic job on Wheel of Time. And
And
we
how do
also
you find it overall, Wheel of Time?
um I
Briefly.
I do like it. I think that this is the most difficult series to adapt into a television show, and I'm almost wondering how it was incredibly ambitious undertaking to do it. And as enjoyable as it is to watch, it's very hard to have the realization of, well, they had to leave this out because it's not adaptable or
Mm,
all this other stuff. Like it's such a complicated story um
mhm.
that you're going to miss out on maybe half of what's going on.
Right.
So if you're a fan and you're looking forward to all of those details and minutia, they can't do it. It's not.
No, I mean, but did it get the because it got some backlash, didn't it? For like it came out around about the same time as Rings of Power, and I seem to remember people were hating on it a lot, but it didn't get anything like the hate that Rings of Power got.
I don't think it got the hate that Rings of Power got because I don't there's I think that Rings of Power did something that the Wheel of Time's production company didn't do. And what the Rings of Power did was
Not
that,
deliberately antagonize their fan base.
well, I should say that in the Wheel of Time, they made the event of the series coming to television a fan-based event.
Oh,
And they had all sorts of competitions and fun things for the fans to get excited about before the show came out. They asked the fans, what kind of music do you think should be in the Wheel of Time? What do you guys listen to? What would these characters be listening to? There was a lot going on in regards to development of they did competitions and puzzles, and it was just such a different approach to bringing a series to life. But there were
sorry, Aram,
certain.
these were actual fans. Like, so they
Yes.
went out to the fan base as opposed to hiring
Yes.
a bunch of
Yes.
people that pretended to be fans and then all came out afterwards and said they weren't
Yes.
really fans and they didn't know what. Right? Okay.
And Stubble's really more of the person who should be answering to this, as a super fan, because he was constantly sending me things saying, well, this is what's happening and this is what they sent out. And here's some of the latest pictures. And they put this out as a promotion. And like they kept everybody who was interested in this world informed of what was going to happen. But at the same time, it just wasn't possible to fit everything into the television series. And I've listened to the audiobook of the first book, and even after listening to it and seeing the level of writing that it is, which it is obviously very influenced by, Tolkien. Obviously, everybody's influenced by Tolkien. This story, I think can stand and does stand on its own. It's
Mm,
different enough from let's say Tolkien's stories that it's differentiable. So you don't feel like you're watching the same story at all. Like it doesn't feel that way. It's a different fantasy, but it is still high fantasy.
mhm.
So I even with the Lord of the Rings, they had to make changes.
Oh
And
yeah.
those changes had to be done in order for it to make sense. And now, one other thing that the show did suffer from, and Stubble may concur with this if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but because of the pandemic, different shows had to change the way that they operate and how they were going to finish off stuff. So that also kind of interfered with it a little. But they didn't have the same production budget that Rings of Power had, which was a limitless budget. Rings of Power was very different because they decided to change some of the costuming and some of the looks of the characters to so that they were almost unrecognizable.
It was just
Now
an example of how not to do things. "Oh, hey, Peter Jackson, can you give us some help?" "Yeah, sure." "Oh, no, he's probably not gonna like what we're gonna do. We're gonna ignore the guy that everybody loves for translating it." So it was just absurd. I was really upset with their hair. I seem to
yeah.
remember, like, elves have long hair, man, like, they're metal. That's it, like, they have long hair. We all know this. It's just like a thing, right? And it's just like, "No, we're gonna give them 80s boy band hair." They all look like they were sort of like Aha, circa
Yeah.
2023, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that whoever got the production design for it decided that they wanted to distinguish their production from every other production, and they went with sort of a deconstructed look. And I get that. I understand that. Like there are a lot of sort of off Broadway plays. There are a lot of one woman, one man shows where they have this deconstructed look. They make the sets look very unusual and they want it to be very kind of texturized, and that's what they were going for. But oftentimes, depending upon what it is, a deconstructed look does not necessarily work for television. I think it worked for The Wiz, which was a musical,
Oh, for the
let's
70s.
say a different type of interpretation of The Wizard of Oz, and they needed a deconstructed look. But that was a highly creative, incredibly talented person who made The Wiz,
Mhm.
and did those types of designs where you look at it and you're like, wow, that's very creative. That's very different. I like how they do that. That's because that person was incredibly talented who made those designs. The deconstructed look in the Rings of Power for me did not meet my expectations, let's say in regards to professional design. Yes, I do understand what they were trying to do, but personally, I felt like looking at it, it really did kind of look like like an off Broadway Shakespearean production, or and we're talking way off Broadway, where they only have a limited budget and everything has to be recycled from other shows. That's what it looked like for me. The makeup and the hair looked very, I'm sorry, it just didn't look polished enough.
Well, I
Um,
just think some things lend themselves to sort of, reimagining, reinterpretation, and things like you could do Oliver Twist, but set it in Harlem, have it like an all black thing, like
Harlem,
how they have.
US, United States,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So you do it, you set it in modern day Harlem and you use the same sort of ticks and beats for Oliver, the English, Victorian Oliver Twist, and you transfer it to Harlem. That'll work. That'll be great. You can make it into a musical, do whatever you want. Got to think of beef or two, or however the song goes. Got to pick a pocket or two. That's it. All that kind of thing. But yeah, you don't mess around with Lord of the Rings. But anyway, we were in the middle of saying hello to everybody.
Yes, but it also one other thing that they made a mistake with is that they made the travelers, let's say this traveling group of individuals, look dirty, and there's this kind of, you know, rough look, living rough, which everybody knows what that means. It means you're living on the street. It
Hmm.
means you don't have access to, the tap, so you can take a shower or whatever. And they mistakenly associated those characters with this look where they do look like they're living rough. And no one wants to see that. Unless it's Oliver Twist, like you said, where he's suffering or the kids are on the streets or something. Once you take a character that's supposed to be a happy go lucky kind of sprite like character and you make them look deconstructed, they just look like dirty, filthy creatures. They
Hmm.
don't have that essential kind of fantasy feel about them. You've taken that away. You've made them look like they're hobos. You've made them look like they're, living homeless. In
Yeah,
opposed
the
to
Irish were pretty. Some of the Irish were pretty pissed off about it because they were literally like, there's an insult that goes to Irish people, which I'll say, but it's not me using this term. But a lot of the one of the insults that people use to the Irish is like bog trotters, because they're just sort of, the impression is that they're sort of dirty and all that kind of thing. None of that's true, but a lot of the Irish that I certainly spoke to about it were like, "Yeah, fucking hell, man!" It's like literally playing into a sort of like a 1970s stereotype of an Irish person, But
and
of
yet
course,
again and
they didn't care about offending that particular group of people, obviously. Yeah.
yeah, and accents were also to be considered. I'm not an accent expert, but that is something to consider going forward too when it comes to accents. And also, clearly whoever did this wanted to distinguish themselves as a design or costume design. They wanted to distinguish themselves, but all they really did was to just make everybody look like they were chimney sweepers.
Yeah, talking of Oliver Twist, right? Um,
That's all they look like. So you're looking like, why does everybody have a dirty face? Why does everybody look like they've been living on the streets? They have these little cabiny things. Why aren't they living in that? It didn't have to look so grungy and messy. They could have given them like a beautiful glow. What do I mean by that? They could have given them sparkles or something where when you saw these people, they travel a lot, but why do they have these sparkles? Create something magical. It doesn't have to be made
well, I
look
can
good.
see where it came from. I mean, in this country and in Ireland as well, and we have a group of people called the Travelers, and they're invariably, you've seen Snatch with
Yeah,
Brad Pitt, and yeah,
yeah.
right, that's them, right? So they and nobody likes them because they turn up and they're not supposed to be here, and they leave a terrible mess, and they intimidate the people. We had them here a few years ago. Nobody likes Travelers, but they're a thing, and I think that they in Rings of Power were sort of trying to go for this sort of romanticized ideal of what Irish travelers are like, and we'll show them, and they travel around and they're whimsical and twee, and they've got the Irish accent and all that sort of thing. But it's obviously the Irish were pissed off about it. So,
Of
well, not all.
course.
I can't speak for all Irish people, but I know some of them certainly were a
It
little bit
it was not
annoyed.
considering cultural norms for, it was not considering cultural norms, and essentially, that was not an original idea of theirs. They decided to do this on purpose to prove whatever point they wanted to that they could do it, but they didn't consider that if you grab something from a certain culture and use it, and then you kind of play around with it, that it might be interpreted as an insult. That was not considered. Um, I
But
think when
doesn't Rob always say nobody sets out to make a bad movie, right? Or the
yes.
people that were doing Rings of Power
Yeah.
didn't, as much as we might want to believe, they didn't all sit round a table and say, let's see if we can make, we've got $1 billion here. Let's see if we can spend every red cent annoying absolutely everybody that loves this franchise. Like
I
I
can't
can't imagine
I
that was
can't
in their mind.
I can't say for sure that isn't the case because we have had designers, directors, writers, screenplay people say that when you see this, it may bother you. We've seen video game developers, the guy from The Last of Us, who changed the second game so dramatically and had said, when you guys watch this, it might bother you, it might annoy you, you might be upset, and that's what we intended to do. I can't say for
Ooh,
certain that that wasn't the case with this production because of
I
the amount of effort that was put in to produce an image of such great, let's say, so diverted away from the reality of anything anybody would ever put on a television show.
well, I
There's
just think that I'm sure they weren't sat there going, yeah, we're going to fuck this up for everybody, but I'm sure they did sit there and talk about the problematic elements of Tolkien, in inverted commas, and how they need to address that for modern audiences and all that kind of thing, which of course nobody wants. Um, and they were completely tone deaf, and it was a catastrophe of note. I mean, it was an absolute catastrophe on every single level. When you talk about the costumes, right? You can literally start there. They were bad. The hair was bad. The acting was bad. The story didn't make it. And it just went on and on and on. And and you can forgive things. I mean, I only watched, I think, 2 or 3 episodes. I can't even remember. I was like, no, I'm done with this. This is crap. But you can forgive certain things if the story is good, but it seems to be sort of going out of its way, even though they weren't going out of their way to upset people. Every single decision they made in that show just further seemed to entrench people's fury, like the fans' fury against that particular show.
Well, what's interesting, Russ, is that there's millions of normies who watched it and they liked it. So there's a whole group of people out there, unbeknownst to them, that this is Tolkien. This is it. I
I'm not
love
sure.
how
I'm not sure. I agree. I don't think it.
no,
I
no,
don't
I'm
think
saying
because it
I have spoken to some and they love it. So
sure, but it
it's
had that
not
massive drop off, didn't it?
It did, but you know what I mean. There are
I
people watching it who think that this is Tolkien. This is it. Like, oh wow, like they don't know that this is not necessarily an accurate or the most accurate portrayal of the works. So that's something else to think about, and it's out there. Like, it's out there. The series is there, and people, I'm not saying that it's the most popular series, but there were some people who watch it and believe that this is it. This is Tolkien.
but surely
It's
then they'll
not.
go out and seek out the books and the Peter Jackson movies, and then they'll watch those, and they'll go, "You fucking what?" Right? Actually, no, that's Tolkien. I can't imagine if you're a fan of Rings of Power, like you've never seen Tolkien, you haven't seen those old movies before. They're 20 odd years old now. Who wants to watch that? But then if you were really into it, you'd go and seek out other things from the same universe as you would if you, I don't know, if you loved Man of Steel, you'd never seen it before, and you thought, oh, what? There's more of this, and you'd go and you'd watch Wonder Woman and Batman and all that sort of thing. I can't imagine anybody having seen Rings of Power then watching the Peter Jackson trilogy and saying, "Well, that sucked. That
Well,
was
but
crap.
remember,
It's not pure to the version that."
no, you're right. And this is a different age we're living in, because when you and I were growing up, probably everybody who's in this stream, or most of us, when we watch television, we different things were pushed and advertised to us, but now it's very different now. People
Mm.
go onto Amazon and they'll see different things. Guess what? Lord of the Rings is not being pushed on Amazon for you to watch it. Rings of Power will pop up. Hey, why don't you check out Rings of Power based on the Tolkien stories? That'll pop up before Lord of the Rings would pop up. When you and I were growing up, something like that, like Lord of the Rings, would pop up on network television and we'd be watching it, or we'd
Mm.
see it, and that would be what would come up. It wouldn't be Rings of Power that would have been pushed. Amazon can push that till the cows come home. It doesn't matter. It doesn't cost them a penny to push their own products. So it is very different. We're not going to see Rings of Power in syndication because we're not watching network TV anymore, but that would be the normal process. It would be in syndication. It would pop up every once in a while over the years. Lord of the Rings has had 20 years to pop up in syndication. And sometimes it does show up on, let's say even up to 5 years ago, it was on TV. You could turn on the television, BBC or wherever you are, turn on your television and it might be, oh, look, it's the third one. So I think it's a very different world we're living in, where if you don't have that stuff coming up, and if you don't have a parent who's watching it, you won't ever see it. All you're going to see is Amazon. Everybody's got Amazon. All you're going to see is Rings of Power. Oh, look, Rings of Power is back on. You can watch that again. The real Tolkien stuff, that's what's being pushed onto people. That's why so many people don't know these movies, like you're saying, Russ, from 20, 30 years ago. You won't see them. There's no syndication on the stream platforms to do that. So you won't see them. But Russ, I have been watching the Hobbit series.
Oh
I've
yeah.
been watching it over and over again, the extended cuts.
Hmm.
So I've been watching like 9 hours of the Hobbit, and I was like, yeah, let me watch it again. I've been enjoying it. I know it's not as strong as the first three films, but Martin Freeman kind of like has been winning me over, and I've been obsessing with him as the Hobbit. And like, he's just amazing as Bilbo. He's amazing in that character. I
I think those films are okay. Like I really I had a massive depressive episode once in my life, and I ended up living with The Hobbit and its extended cuts and its director's commentary and its three-movie diary of how they made the films and all that. Like, because the special features are absolutely rammed on those discs, and it was great. It actually really got me through a very dark time in my life. So I'll always be grateful to The Hobbit for that. I remember, because I felt like I was with them. Like it was so like I watched the
um,
film parts were great, right?
yeah.
But it was the watching the special features and listening to the commentaries of all of the people. I sat there for days and days and days. It was a really rough time in my life, but it really helped me. So yeah, got a bit of love for The Hobbit because of that.
Wow. My goodness. Well, you know something? It's interesting, the conversation that this comment started, Gary Bandasandage Worthington, about these costumes because as I said, Wheel of Time, I have never seen such incredible costumes, maybe some of the best costumes I've ever seen. And there's even an episode, Russ, where they just show you the dress that the Admiral, who's the head of the Aes Sedai group, she wore this incredible dress. And she's not even in the dress, Russ, but they show you the dress.
Hmm.
And when you look at the dress, you can feel the power that this individual has. And I said, that is costume perfection. When your character isn't even in the costume and you are frightened or you can feel the intensity of the person who wears that costume, you know you have reached, costume nirvana.
Well,
She's done it.
that's like The Hobbit, seeing as you
Yes.
like. Oh, by the way, sorry to interrupt. It's fucking blazing sunshine now. Literally, I'm sitting here getting really hot. Yeah. So people sort of rag on The Hobbit a lot, but I tell you who had that aura going about him, and it was Lee Pace.
Oh,
Was it
yes.
Thranduil?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I
yeah.
love him in The Hobbit.
But
He's
his outfit, look, I know, like, I didn't mind him riding around on the giant stag. I thought that was kind of fitting, actually.
yeah.
I didn't think it was silly at all. I didn't like Billy Connolly in it though. But no, what's my point? Galadriel and Celeborn in the first in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings in the extended cut when they go to Lothlorien and things like that, they looked fucking awesome. Whereas in Rings of Power, they just looked like they were cosplaying,
Yeah.
and not cosplaying well. Like it, like you imagine you and me at a cosplay off. Like your cosplay would be absolutely awesome, and mine would be, just sort of like a loincloth and a trash can liner. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
There you
Early
go.
days of cosplay, the early days of cosplay where you had to make it yourself and maybe you didn't have a lot of stuff. And of course, guys, what I'm showing you is not Wheel of Time costume. This is, of course, Lee Pace. Um, as you said, Galadriel, is that his? No, maybe that's not.
Thranduil.
Thranduil, thank you. And Lee Pace is just haunting and mesmerizing, and I'm a huge fan of his too. He's
He was one of those other actors when he are that they really wanted to make a thing, a bit like Taylor Kitsch and like the Hollywood just gets onto someone and they push this person into, and sometimes it takes, and sometimes it, and he was certainly one. I saw him in an action movie, like a sort of an alien invasion movie after this, and he was really good in it. But he's, I don't know what, he's probably on TV now, isn't he? That's where they all are. But I remember there was a big push to make him a star, and it never really took, did it?
It didn't, unfortunately. I guess he didn't come across as being, I don't know. His popularity or his promotability wasn't there. I think that he's an excellent actor. I think he's in the Foundation series, and I'm a huge fan of his. And, he's remarkable when it comes to, he was in another show called Halt and Catch Fire. There he is again.
Hmm.
And he was in *Halt and Catch Fire*, which was sort of like the explosion of the internet, and that he was fantastic in that series. I believe it
Hmm.
was him. But you are right; they've tried to make him sort of an A line, A-lister
Hmm.
actor, and he does have the acting chops for it. But I think he might let's just say it hasn't worked out in that manner. I think he's a remarkable actor. He was in another film that he's really famous for, and I can't remember the name of the film, but it is a film that the casting agent for The Hobbit saw him and said, we've got to have him in um in The Hobbit as this character. And I believe that's how that happened. I hope I'm saying the right thing, guys.
Hmm.
Wow. But yeah, he's incredible. He looks like what we think elves should look like. And does Lee Pace look like this? He looks a little different in real life.
He looks totally different in real life. Yeah.
And so, do we want to believe that elves look like this? Yes, this is how we imagine elves would look like. And we want to see the fantasy. We want to see the beauty in the elves. They're immortals. There's all sorts of cool things about them that we're expecting to see when we see them. So there is an expectation to that, and that's fine. I I think that all of the characters needed to have the same respect and care when they were fashioned and designed in Rings of Power, regardless if they were living on the road, and that's how you saw them. They could have used a little bit of splendor, a little bit of magic to them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because then you can't distinguish them from anybody else. The characters became undistinguishable You know, that there was nothing special about many of the characters in Rings of Power, and that was the one thing that stood out the most. I think, in addition
Yeah.
to bad casting choices.
It was just a steaming turd.
Yeah.
You know, like, and this came out at the time. I distinctly remember that House of the Dragon was the number one topic of conversation at Amazon meetings. Like, how did they do this on a tenth of the budget that we had, and how does everybody love this, and why does everybody hate us? I don't know. Maybe they stuck to the source material. perhaps, perhaps, perhaps they didn't go off and instantly attack everybody before they'd even started the show. If you don't like our show, you are whatever slur they're gonna point at you. Whereas Rings of Power tackled their diversity issue sort of head on and said, look, yeah, we have to, we believe in diversity, so we're making all of those people diverse. If you don't want to watch it, fine, but that's what we're doing. And they didn't tell you that you were horrible if you didn't like the change. They just said this is the change that we're going to make. I forget the name of the island, the sea, the ones that have the navy, and that was fine. And people ran with it and were okay with it, and they were fine about it. But yeah, Rings of Power, not so much. I can't believe we're actually talking about Rings of Power. That's an old show to bring up.
Well, we were really talking about the Wheel of Time
Wheel of Time, yeah.
and the costumes. And here's one of the costumes. This is the actual costume in question. Although Sophie Okinato is in the costume in the show, this is from season 1. In season 2, they show this costume that she's wearing, this dress.
Mm.
And the dress, it's enormous. It's like an enormous dress. And even when she's not wearing the dress, the costume, when she's not in it, it's sort of, it was in a room and you could see it, and this one woman looked at it and it represented the power that this woman has, and it was incredible to see it. Isis Musadine, who is the costume designer, as I mentioned, has done an extraordinary job with these costumes, Russ. And I've never seen costumes like this before. This was, it's it, I mean, the last time that I saw something this creative was with Ruth Carter, who did Black Panther's costumes, which were
Mm.
spectacular. And this is equally spectacular. I was not expecting to see this level of artistry and craftsmanship in any place, but it's not even just the elaborate ones. All the other costumes look good too, Russ. And I wasn't expecting a suite of costumes, of which there are probably hundreds of them, to look and have this feel. It really does create the power of the show. And that is a very important aesthetic to any show that you watch. You want to be blown away by the way the costumes look. And she did it. So wow. Yeah, I we got a little sidetracked there, but you're right, Gary. Those costumes in Wheel of Time have been extraordinary. And thank you for bringing it up. As you can see, we got into a little foray here. Miss Martin Muses with the rose. Oh, the rose.
I don't know Miss Martin Muses, so hello. Welcome to Sunday
Hello,
brunch.
my dear. Thank you for the rose. Thank you so much for such a lovely greeting in the morning. Stubble says Hamburger Hill was an actual event and a tragic one at that. It showed the futility of some of those combat missions and the bad decisions that were made by the higher ups. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Thank
based
you.
on a true story, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, thank you, Darth Plato, and for suggesting Hamburger Hill is the film that we're going to be looking at on Thursday, right here on Positive Fandom, the historical series where we're looking at films. Um, and it is very interesting. And thank you, Irene, for letting us know that Brad is there playing Final Fantasy 14 and Nothing But His Boxers. Oh, warm cinnamon rolls. That sounds delicious, Irene. And Mike Alita says regarding Wheel of Time, is Daniel Henney as sexy as he was in season 1? Now, who is Daniel Henney? Is he the guy who plays? It's not Rand, because I know his name is a different name. Let's look at Daniel Henney. If he's in it this season. Yes, he is. Yes, he's smoldering, smoking hot. So yes, and he plays Ran. The character's name is Ran, and he is a warder to, or former warder to Moraine. I'll show you who this guy is in a second, Russ. He's unbelievably cool. And yeah, he's unbelievable. I'm just looking for a good picture of him in the character. But yes, he's in it. He's unbelievable. I can't get over that they chose him. He might be too good looking for this series because you can't have somebody who's so smoking hot. So every time you see him in the show, it's like he steals the show. Like he takes away from from what's going on because you're looking at him. You're not paying attention to what's going on. You're just looking at this guy. So, like on more than one occasion, you're watching it and you're like, gee, he's kind of hot. Oh yeah, what was going on again? Like it's just he actually does have an encounter with one of the ladies in the show, which is great. But we need more of that. We need some more of these romantic encounters. And he's smoking hot, sexy, absolutely. Like, yes, he is just, you can't take your eyes off of him. So, Justin Channels. Hi, Justin Channels. Says something about an acquired taste. Oh, well, hello, Justin Channels. Welcome to Sunday Brunch. Good to see you. There you are.
I think he's talking about EDM.
Oh yeah, yeah. Raver here too. Yes, Justin Channels. It's really all about the music. It really is, Justin Channels. You keep in contact with me and let me know what events you are going to, Justin Channels. Even Retro Nerd Girl says, I love dancing for hours too. No influence needed. Thank you so much, Retro Nerd Girl. Stubble says, speaking of Hamburger Hill, that battle was more or less depicted in a fantasy setting on book 8 of Wheel of Time. What? 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 Really? Oh my gosh, I love this. Stubble, you're the best. Jordan did 2 terms in Vietnam. What? And served during Hamburger Hill as no. Roz, can you believe this?
I can. I'm reminded of something that the drinker often says about writers today versus writers of our generation and older generations. He's done that shit. That's insane. That's insane.
Stubble, I thank you so much for saying that. Wow, it really changes things and gives you perspective. And as I said, Russ, when you're listening to the Wheel of Time book, it's high fantasy. So
Mm,
it is, I'm not going to say it's not Lord of the Rings, but it is high fantasy. So it distinguishes itself as its own separate story. However, that it's not it's not Dragonlance. It's not
mm.
Dragonlance. If that
I quite liked those books. I remember
I
reading when I
do
was a
too.
kid.
I love Dragonlance,
I
but
can
it is
still
very,
remember, was it Caramon and Raceline and
yes, I
Tanis
love
and
Raceland. He's my favorite character.
Riverwind?
Uh-huh.
Um, uh, I can't remember the name of the little Kenda
No, I can't
creature.
either. But boy, it was great. And
Hasselhoff,
yes, and he
like
was never
Hasselhoff,
afraid of
but
anything,
not.
right? He was never afraid of anything, right? Except
Yeah,
for one
yeah.
thing. There was only once he was afraid of something. Um, and I yeah, but I did just want to kind of distinguish it in the sense of, well, what is the Wheel of Time like? What is it like reading those books? It's like it's on the level of reading Tolkien's books. So just to give you an idea of how much Robert Jordan put into the Wheel of Time, it was a tremendous undertaking and a beautifully written series.
Mhm.
He has a lovely writing style. And if you want to get lost and enjoy a fantasy series that is similar to or might remind you of Tolkien, but is its own entity, you might like Wheel of Time. And I also do want to mention that it is female focused. Your book's Gladiatrix obviously is female focused because it's about a female gladiator. So
Mm.
you and Jordan you have that similarity of
Wish
having
I had his money.
Quite a bit of, well, it needs to be made into a series, Russ. We gotta get you on.
Yeah, and I was talking to Flocky about that the other day, and she said there's actually a female gladiator show coming out, so I might have missed the boat, unfortunately.
No, 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 no. You know very well that there's always more than one movie about the same thing coming out at the same
This
time.
is a TV
Go
show.
for it.
They're making it in South Africa, I think.
Okay, well, that's
So
fine. There can be more than one.
let's hope
Um,
so.
Yeah, because that's isn't that what happens? It's like this channel's making a series and then another one's making a series. So I think it can happen. Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. I think it's always an opportunity and I think people would love to see it. Wow. So something, Stubble, thank you for sharing that. I'm so excited. I didn't know he did that. Wow, what a connection. Um to the Wheel of Time, Stubble. I just had no idea. This is very interesting. Um, Blazing Nation says, "I'm also straight edge. Thank you. My name is nickname from high school track.
Yes,
I've
he's a sprinter, wasn't he?
yeah, maybe I've had to explain some people who were confused by my screen name. That's cool. That's fine. And we are so glad you're here, Blazing Nation. Justin Channel says R&B, on the other hand, cannot talk about EDM without discussing the concept of getting high. You can tell he misses the drinking. Oh, well, you know something, Justin? Um, he's in recovery. So, let's give him a little bit of slack. Let's cut R&B a little bit of slack for that. And he's doing well in recovery. And sometimes we do reminisce about the old days. You are right about that, Justin. Um, but he is in recovery, so let's just go ahead and realize that he's gonna be thinking about, I guess, times like that. We all do. Um, so let's just keep that in mind. And thank you, Justin, for contributing to. Keely Chow is here.
Yes, she is.
How are you, Keely Chow? Hope you are well. Says what's going on. Um, Oh, yes, I hope I gave you that. I would much rather Stubble do it though. I said it's a high fantasy set of books created by Robert Jordan, a man who's a former Vietnam veteran, as we just heard from Stubble. That is a unique fantasy experience. And if you were fond of Tolkien's stories, then perhaps you might enjoy The Wheel of Time. It is female focused stories. And if you want something different, this might be the one for you. So that's what Wheel of Time is from a book perspective. From a television perspective, they've adapted it to a television series. Go ahead and watch it, see how you feel about it, Bonzo, and let us know. Let's see what else is going. Stubble seems to feel that the second season is much better than the first season for The Wheel of Time. Talia says she read the books a long time ago. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
fair
I
enough.
never did. I couldn't get into them. Funny enough, I much
And
preferred David Gemmell. I was really into his stuff. He was brilliant.
really?
Yeah, but he refused to sell movie rights to his book and put it in his will that he never wants his movie rights sold.
Wow, that's interesting.
Hmm.
And
Because
that's his
he said that he saw what Hollywood does to intellectual properties, and he doesn't want his stuff ruined for his fans. So,
I don't blame him, you know?
well, he's dead. Now. He's been dead a long time now, David Gemmell. But yeah, he he said, the money would be nice, but the reach of the TV show or the movie or whatever will be far greater than his novels, and he had a feeling they would ruin it. And like if that came out today, he's probably right. You know,
Absolutely, Russ, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And there probably are quite a few writers who have that in their wills, and that's why you're not going to see adaptations of certain things. JH Edits says, "When is the next watch party?" Now, are you referring to the watch party here, J and H Edits? Is that what he's referring to, Darth Plato? We have a watch party on Thursday at 6 p.m. right here on Positive Fandom. It's going to be Hamburger Hill. I hope that's what you're referring to, JH Edits. Hopefully, we'll see you then at 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Also, Darth Plato says, Stubble, I appreciate the comments on Hamburger Hill. I intend to wax loquacious. Vietnam needs its own lesson taught. Okay, Fair enough. Um, and also, Justin Channel says, yeah, they engaged the fans, and then I watched week after week, was so incredibly disappointed with the show. Okay, sorry,
That's
Justin Channel.
Wheel of Time, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fans of the books have not been happy with the series, so
Mm.
that is very true. And as I said, I personally don't think it is adaptable for the screen. That's how I feel about it. I think that if you had somebody like possibly like Peter Jackson who could try and adapt it, I don't know whether he could do better than what we've seen. Maybe he could. Maybe he could, but I don't think you could make it into 3 movies. It's just too much in it that it would not come across, correctly, in my opinion. But, maybe I'm wrong. Somebody prove me wrong. Tell me who could make it, the way you'd want it, Justin Channels, or even, Stubble. Let me know what you think. Rogue Thinker is here. Hi, says good morning and hello. Um, and who what else is going on here? Um, ROP is an abomination. I don't want to keep coming down and being negative about it, but if they had changed the casting and maybe had also changed a little bit of the production design, and some of the writing, it could have been amazing. It
I
could have
look,
been.
it could have been, but as RMB always says, these people clearly, even though if they didn't want to make a shit project, well, yeah, I'll stick by that. Like they weren't sitting there going, "Yeah, we're gonna ruin this. We're gonna destroy it." No, they were not. But when you have your agenda, and as I said, like in that meeting, they're all sitting there going, "Well, look, it's really problematic. There aren't enough coloured people. There aren't enough women. There aren't enough this. We have to address that." And when you go in with that, not like, "Well, how can we tell this story?" Like what's going to be the best? Yeah, that's where Rings of Power. That's why it's an abomination, and it is. So you have to wonder what lessons will they take from it?
They
Because
won't. They're
we're,
going to make
we're
a
committed
season.
to 5 seasons, aren't we?
Yeah, they're going to make, and it's going to be the most expensive, probably the most expensive series ever made in the history of television. Um, and there are people probably lined up trying to work on that project. Blazing Agent says, Darth Plato, I'm Vietnamese, and it surprises me how many people don't understand its history and what happened with the war. Yes, especially in the US. Sorry, Blazing Agent, it's awful. It's just awful. Joe Tyson is here, Russ.
Oh, Big Joe. Hey, man, I didn't see you come in. How's it going?
Yeah, good to see you, Joe Tyson. Hope you are well. Hope everybody is yes, thank you. Long, straight, flowing hair. You don't have to have long, straight, flowing hair to be an elf. They'll put a wig on you, they'll give you makeup. Lee Pace does not look like that picture I showed you guys. And I am convinced, Russ, I'm convinced that if they had gone ahead and taken some of those actors from Rings of Power and dressed them properly, we would have seen some extraordinary looking individuals. They enhance your looks. It's supposed to enhance your looks and make you look the best that you can, not the worst that you can look. I'm trying to make you look the best of how you actually look. They took a good looking man and made him look ugly. He's supposed to have been fallen in love with this woman in a nearby village and been in love with her, I don't know, like 70 years or some crap like that. He's been hanging out around these humans for 70 years and they've grown on him, Russ. And he comes across this beautiful woman and he's like, I can't stay away from her. I have to be with her. That's a good story. That's a damn good story. That's an elf who knows he's immortal and better than everybody else. And he sees this beautiful human female and he can't resist her. He has to stay with her. In fact, he manipulates the war to be with her. Yeah, that's a good story. But don't make this attractive Latin man, this smoking hot Latin man, look bad. Don't do that. Make him look as hot as he can look. So we're all like, yeah, he's kind of hot. That's what should be happening when we see these elves. It doesn't even matter what they actually look like. Just play up to somebody's, attributes and make them look attractive. Everybody has that potential to do it. I don't know why we didn't see that in the series. And I wanted the human female, the woman who plays the character. It doesn't matter what she looks like. I just wanted to see the connection between the two of them and for him to be in love with her. It does not matter if she's the most beautiful woman in the world. It's completely irrelevant. He had to have fallen in love with her and we needed to see that and we didn't get that. We didn't get that, Russ. I didn't get the wow, he's just so in love with her that nothing else matters anymore. Like the whole, the whole wherever they are could go away tomorrow, and it doesn't matter as long as he has her. That's what I wanted to see. Because what would it be like to be in love with an elf if you're a human? An elf is different, right? I mean, we saw a really sweet version of it in Lord of the Rings, but what if it was like this man, this elf who was so intense? Just imagine what that kind of love would be like. I don't know what it would be like, but we could find out in Rings of Power.
Well, yeah, but the whole point is, of course, is elves aren't intense. This is like the Tolkien elves aren't intense. Tolkien elves live for tens of thousands of years. Like they are so far and away beyond what we can understand. So that's why the whole sort of relationship with Luthien and Beren and then Aragorn and Arwen is such a big deal. And to be fair, it's actually not that much of a big deal in the books, is it? It's like a part of the appendices, but they wanted to have that sort of female presence in the film that was sort of active because of she did Arwen did a lot of stuff that was done by other people. So, for example, the sort of river where she says Frodo by the river, that was Glorfindel in the books. But that's kind of like that's all Glorfindel actually does. He sort of sort of helps them out and does a little bit, and then he disappears from the narrative and so on. You've got a lot of that going on in Lord of the Rings, so that's why Arwen was a kind of stand-in for that. I think. But the whole thing about the elves in Rings of Power was they weren't very elf-like, whereas this guy was like he was absolute. Tharinder was absolutely arrogant, didn't like dwarves, didn't like humans, was absolutely secure in his power. Because you got to think this is like 100 years before the rise of Sauron. Like no one, the re-rise of Sauron 2, the Electric Boogaloo. They had no idea that was going to happen. He was completely secure in his power. I loved that portrayal.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's all about this fantasy that it's creating. We know that this is not, let's just enjoy the fantasy of it. I
Hmm.
think if anything else, Rogue Thinker with the comments about the long flowing hair, and I'm gonna also say it's the same for martial arts. Let's say these traditional martial arts fantasy films that I like to see, that do start, it's mainly an Asian cast, and they have hair like down to their knees, and they're fighting and they're flying all over the place, and their hair is flying all over the place. Yeah, I want to see that. I'm actually watching this because I want to see long, straight flowing hair in these characters. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not. Can they
Huh.
fly from rooftop to rooftop? No, I don't care. I want to see the fantasy. And that's why I'm turning it on to see that. I don't care if it's the legend of whatever character. It's completely irrelevant to me. I want to see that fantasy and the costumes and the beauty in it all.
Mm.
I'm turning on to see that in addition to the martial arts. Yes. But I am watching it for the long, straight flowing hair. I admit that. I'm not going to lie, Rogue Thinker. Not going to lie about it. What do you think, Russ?
Well, no, I think if you're going in to watch a Ouija film, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or Hero, or whatever, the House of Flying Daggers, whatever it is, you don't really want your expectations subverted, do you? Like, can you imagine if they sort of Rings of Powered, like one of those movies? It would be really bad, wouldn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be all the elements that we're expecting to see. And it is true that I'm exaggerating with the hair, although there's a lot of them with the hair. And then I think you know what I'm talking about, Russ. And I've
Hmm.
watched hours and hours of these shows with just people walking around in these costumes with really, really long hair, like literally down to their knees. Cause I want to see that. And it's okay to enjoy that fantasy. So yes, Rogue Thinker, I'm right with you on that. Um, Justin says so much attempted humor and dated modern day things in real time. Yeah, people talk about the insertion of modernism. Is that what he's talking about, Russ? Modernism in realms and worlds where it doesn't belong. I would not consider it any more high fantasy than Game of Thrones.
Song of Fire and Ice.
Okay. And not high fantasy, modern fantasy. Okay, very and you mean in the television show, right, Justin Channels? Because um in the books there is no modernism. There isn't. There isn't. And Please correct me if I'm wrong, Stubble. Let us know. Um, Also, what else do we have here? Uh, Stubble says, I think there would be some course correction with Rings of Power. That doesn't mean it would be better, though.
That's what
Okay.
I was asking earlier on. You know, you've got to hope that they sort of sit in the room and go, "Do you know what? This is like a balls up. We need to get this right this season, otherwise no one's going to watch it." You know, like 30 set. What is it? They had a 37% completion rate, which is 13% below the Netflix threshold for instantly axing a series. So they've got big problems. But you know, I just think it depends on who's running it, because people say, "Oh, Amazon's like the wokest corporation in the world." Well, it kind of is. It kind of is, and it isn't. I mean, you have like woke disasters. Like some people say, Wheel of Time is a sort of woke disaster. I don't know because I've never seen it or read the book, so I'm not going to comment on that. But Amazon routinely produces like some of the best non-woke content, as we've also said, like Reacher and that thing with Chris Pratt that I can never remember the name of,
Terminal list.
Terminal List, things like that. So there's loads of good stuff on Amazon, you know. And I guess we should be. It's a bit like Star Wars, actually. You know, as much as the vast majority of people hate the fact that Disney has Star Wars, you know, when they do a good job, you know, do let them know, because they'll just keep producing what they want as opposed to what you want if you don't let them know. And I think Amazon are rather the same. I'd much rather watch. I haven't seen this Lioness thing yet, and I keep meaning to watch that. You know,
Oh, with Zoe?
yeah, yeah, and you know, because it seems right up my street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does.
But
Maybe we
hey,
should.
look, we need to get through these messages, because you know we haven't even spoken about what we were going to speak about today.
That's true. How does the Wiz compare to the Pest? What is Pet? What is Pest?
I don't know.
Jane H. Edits, tell us again what that means. Foundation was Apple's. Wheel of Time as The Witcher is for net.
Yeah, this is a good point. We were talking, Arum and I were talking about this the other day, and you know, we were talking about that female gladiator thing. I think the next big thing's going to be Romans. I think fantasy will have another couple of years. Then I think the Romans are coming back. They're making a sequel to the Rome TV show. I heard.
Yay!
Yeah, they're making a sequel to Spartacus: Blood and Sand. Gladiator Two's coming out. There's this female gladiator thing. That says, so there's four things there. So everybody's going to want one. So I hope mine's one of them. Yes, take on me. Aha hair. We're talking
I
about
think you
elf
will
hair.
want it, Russ. Add it to the binder and pump it out and put it out there, Russ, because I have a
Well, I
feeling.
can't. I'm waiting. Look, I'm waiting for Amy. You know, I was talking to Amy about making like a short, like a, what do they call it? Like a proof of concept. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And we were talking about how we would do it, and you know, like we'd have to do it with Unreal Engine, and I thought, oh god, that's going to look crap. And then I saw some of this Unreal Engine stuff, and it looked absolutely amazing. You know, or good enough for a proof of concept anyway. But you know, she's on strike. There's nothing we can do. Like we just can't do anything at the moment, and it's really frustrating.
It is frustrating. That's why the strike does need to end. I'm, as I said, I'm not going to comment on the strike, but I just hope it ends soon and people can get back to work
It
and
ain't
back.
going to end anytime soon. And this is just my opinion. This is my hot take. I think the studios will win. I just think it's just the wrong time to be doing this. I'm fully in support of what the actors and the writers are doing, but I don't think they're going to win. I just don't. I think, you know, when you look at countries like England, Ireland, which is not part of the United Kingdom, so you've got UK, you've got Ireland, you've got South Africa, you've got New Zealand, uh, you've got Australia, you've got all of these sort of Western speaking American socially colonized countries around the world that aren't SAG, you know, and you've got money to make a movie, and you take that to South Africa, or you take it to New Zealand or wherever it is, and you can have a bunch of people there that are desperate to make their film, and they'll make it. And I think the studios just have more options than the actors do. And as has been pointed out by lots of other channels, the problem, you know, they've got a terrible optics problem, especially the actors, in that for the longest time now, many of them have been coming out and attacking their audiences and telling their audiences what they should think, and all of this stuff, whether it was the riots that you had during the COVID period, and the actors were berating people for that, and actors are berating people for not liking Moses Ingram, and actors are berating you for this, and now they're like, oh no, we need money, we're on strike. And I think the vast majority of John Smiths from Akron, Ohio, are probably laughing up their sleeve about this, because they just think it's the Tom Cruises and the Pedro Pascals of this world. But of course it's not. They're the top 1% of, Tom Cruise is the top 1% of the top 1%. Pedro Pascal is the top 1%. All those people are earning millions, tens, and hundreds of millions of dollars. But the other 99% of people aren't. I think if you're working on a top Netflix show, if you're a senior HR manager at BP, you're probably making more than the writer at Netflix is, and your jobs are a lot more secure. So I'm fully in support of it, but I just think there are so many non-union writers, so many non-union actors, so many studios set up around the world. In places like Manila, the Philippines has got a thriving film industry. Spain's got a thriving. There are things they can do, and I just think they're going to outlast these people.
And India is not affected by this, right, Russ?
No, that they're not. But I just think that I honestly don't think that Indian films will take off in the West. I just think that you'll get your odd ones like RRR, or you can have your Asian one like Everything Everywhere All at Once and things like that. These out Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon's another one. Which took the West by storm. By and large, we're culturally different. I don't. I'll watch a musical, or Bollywood musical, or I'll watch one Bollywood film, but ultimately I want to watch Western films because I'm Western, and that's what I like. That's what I enjoy.
I think that's a good point, and I'm probably on the same bandwagon with you. The only thing that I am going to say is that for the most part, the strike may not be affecting the majority of movie goers, but it might be affecting maybe more than one half of the economic um, uh, influence that movies have. So, in other words, since the films, let's say overseas, especially in India, they don't spend as much on films. The actors don't get paid as much as the actors here. There's all these other economic issues about it. Even if they make, which they have probably made more films than anyone else in the world in India, right?
Mm.
Um, and of course, there are different types of. There's Bollywood, there's Tollywood. They have different cultural differences uh, in the way that they make their films as well, and will continue to make films into perpetuity regardless of what happens going forward. Regardless of AI, those guys are still going to make their films. So there's I don't see them being affected by artificial intelligence the way that the West is might be affected. But my point is that the majority of films in the world are still going to be made. It's specifically Hollywood and maybe Canada that's dramatically maybe affected, and individuals who are members of this union who are being held back. But the rest of the world is just keeps ticking on and pumping out films. So, for them, maybe they're not really even feeling this. This is not even anything that's important to them. It's important to us because that's what the genre that we watch primarily. And
Well,
also,
yeah,
you
I
know,
think it seems to be like we're regressing. We're in this sort of really weird period where we're kind of like 1940s and 50s Hollywood, where there's two or three studios that own and control absolutely everything, and that's where we're kind of at. And then you're seeing the sort of the Angel Studios and the A24s of this world, like doing the occasional hit. So I don't know where we're going to end up. Are we going to end up in like a 70s era or an 80s era where you've got Carol Co and Canon and all of these kind of
Ryan,
making
yeah.
Orion, yeah, who did but the thing, Brandywine, all of these things, right? That was Aliens, Brandywine, Alien and Aliens, Orion, Terminator, all of those things came out of smaller studio. Carol Co had a brilliant run of movies.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know where we're going to end up, if we're going to end up back in the because I don't know if I was talking about it on this show, but it seems like it's almost like history repeating itself, in that the budgets for these movies are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the stars are getting, everything's getting bigger, like Cleo. And it also ended with Cleopatra, didn't it?
Mhm.
Which had the biggest stars in the world, the most extras in the world, the longest film in the world, and it just completely failed because people were over sword and sandals by the time that Cleopatra came out, and it almost, I think it was MGM, it almost bankrupted them, didn't it?
Yes.
And we're kind of seeing that with superhero movies now, you know. And
And
the thing with Disney, who are failing at everything at the moment, um, even though they're Disney animated, not animated, the live action remakes are spectacularly successful. They're $1 billion movies. Every single time one of them comes out, it's $1 billion up until recently. So I don't know. I
I
don't know.
I think also that this might be a good time to make things like blaxploitation, sexploitation, whatever exploitation you can imagine. This might be a good time to pump out those types of films because there isn't the competition that would normally be there right now. Might be a good time to go ahead and throw out that film that's got a weird, crazy idea. Under normal conditions, most people would go to see the top Hollywood A-lister films, but since there's not as many of those, they might go to see your film. So this might be a good time for those independent, maybe a little bit more independent films coming out
Well, yeah,
now.
look at 50 Shades of Grey did really, really well, didn't it? And it was just full of boobs, and nudity and spanking and things like that. Stop it, you're getting excited, I can tell. Um, do you know what I mean, though?
Yes.
Because people like going to see fit naked people. We all know that. So yeah.
Mhm. But I also think that that is also an appeal of a lot of these Sword and Sandals movies in that regard. And that's why I'm like, yeah, sex appeal is especially appealing during a time where there are not as many, films coming out. I think it's a great time for a film like that to come out. I kind of am excited to see what's gonna come around. As much as I liked Barbie, I would like to see something a little bit more salacious, as you know.
Mm.
And that was not quite, in that category. It would be great to see something that comes out that's a little
I
bit
don't know. I'm
more
going to try and bring
adult.
back. I told you this before, and I haven't got around to it yet. I'm going to try and bring back the sort of DVD store erotic thriller that you always used to get on a Friday night. Should we get
Yeah.
one? Oh, yeah. Animal Instincts 1 and 2. They were my favorites.
Absolutely. Rogue Thinker says, I'm not sure they didn't make a lot of changes to Wheel of Time. Yes, they did they had to. They have no choice. I look at Chad and Despero, who know the material better than I do, to see how close the changes they kept to the world and the story. Yeah, Stubble knows it a lot better than I do, and he does the reviews with me on the Burr Network. And I think I air it on here too, but I can't remember. But if you want to know a lot of the changes, he can tell you everything, honestly. I haven't read all of those Robert Jordan books, so I don't know the source material to go ahead and say whether they did or didn't. Darth Vader says Wheel of Time seems like a case of imposed diversity. I don't know if it is. Have you read?
Stubble will know, won't he? Because he'll know if
Yeah.
they've
Mhm.
amped it up.
Darth Vader, have you read it? Have you read Robert Jordan's books? I haven't, so I can't answer it. I don't know if it is or isn't. From the first book, I would say no. But since it does more than one book in the series, I can't go ahead and say whether it is or isn't. So I don't know. Uh, Blaze Nation says it amazes the that American Vietnamese don't understand. Oh, are you calling out American Vietnamese? Interesting.
I think he's calling out America's
American.
successful uh, propaganda job on sort of turning the war into something not so bad from America.
Yeah, and J&H edits, you're right. It's very gentrified. New York does not look the same as it did in the 80s. All those empty lots with piles of bricks on them are gone. It is very, very different. Um, all right. Let's see. Um, oh, Rogue Thinker says that Tom Cruise had a perfect Irish accent in Far and Away. I liked him
I
in that.
didn't hate Far and Away.
I loved it.
It's not a hill that I'd die on, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't understand what but that was the sort of era where Tom Cruise was just so famous, and then like they were having a shot pops at him, then weren't they? And they were trying to make him fail. I seem to remember.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, like he was all over the place, and like his very public marriage to Nicole Kidman and all that sort of thing. It's just tabloid crap, but I really liked it. I remember I really enjoyed it, and I couldn't understand what the hate was.
Yeah, Gary says give love to the gypsies, and Blazing Asian says he's never seen Rings of Power,
You're
and
probably better off, mate.
I'm gonna go so far as to say that I would recommend Rings of Power to a film student or somebody who's studying film production or production design of what maybe to stay away from in a series.
I'm going to raise you one on that, and I would say I would show it to anybody that wants to be working in marketing. This is exactly what you do not do. You don't attack your audience. But even if we take all that stuff out of it, just the promos was so cringe. When they were sort of like, and everyone's going, "Oh fuck, it was shit. It was shit. It was so shit." And I had so much money. I had
Yeah,
so much money. I wish
there's
I had some of that money just to make something small, and they are just throwing tens and tens and tens and tens of, and you had tens of millions, and you did this. Oh my god!
when the studio executive's power isn't necessarily making decisions that have any real entertainment value. The power is that they can make decisions as to where the money is going to go. And so,
Mm.
ultimately being able to make that type of decision is incredibly powerful, but because there isn't any one, we're not getting that high level of quality when it comes to, there are still B movies, and you understood what a B movie was from the poster.
Yeah, I
You
love
under,
them.
you understood what that meant. But now what we're getting is films that are supposed to be A movies that aren't even B movies. They're like C and D.
Yeah,
And
I
the
mean, look,
way
Scott Adkins movies, they're all big, they're all sort of straight to DVD B movies, right? But I love them. They're really, really good. And I think Big Joe mentioned Outlaw Johnny Black, which is a Michael Joe White film that's just come out. Which I haven't seen yet, but I must watch it. But hey, we've got to get through, haven't we?
All right. I know I'm going slow. Rogue Thinker says The Matrix Resurrection was made to be terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was,
was
wasn't it? It was a comment on this endless run of sequels and reboots and things like that. That was the
absolutely,
sort of the point of it, wasn't it, Rogue?
it really was. And I also want to mention to you, yes, we do have to talk about the Ahsoka series. Um, and you guys had a lot to say about the Matrix. Certainly. Oh, Scotty is here. Hi, Scotty. Scotty R37.
Hey,
Scotty, how
man.
you doing? Are you enjoying Tiff? Did you go to the film festival in Toronto this year? Let us know. Oh, he's been into Twilight. I love Twilight too. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're remaking it, and they're remaking Harry Potter.
yeah, they are. Um, Broker says there are people that watch movies that had stereotypes about certain people in them, and they actually believe the stereotypes. Yeah, yeah, that is definitely the truth. All right, so Russ, let's go ahead and talk about Ahsoka before this stream ends, I guess. Uh um Darth Plato says social engineering takes precedence over artistic freedom or faithful adaptation. There's no love, just contempt. To be honest with you, right now, money just takes over and they don't even care what the outcome is oftentimes. I think it's the producers. It's the producer syndrome. And like I said, people can go ahead and shuffle money to wherever they need to go. And they can't hide it anymore. They can't hide it anymore. Because a lot of the mechanisms and the way things were done before have been lost. They're not there anymore. So there's no more of these engagements where it seems as if an effort's being made to put forward the best version.
Oh
Of
man, you
it.
just reminded me of something. So last night, I was such a good mood last night, and I took my daughter. She was asked to do this is hilarious. Sam was like been asked to appear in a photo shoot about female boxers. Yeah, I know.
Yes,
So it was like mental. So I
I
was like, she
love
was happy.
that.
All right, yeah, and I took her there, and we were listening to music all the way, and I was listening to music all the way back. Don't worry, there is a point to this that is to do with what we were talking about with budgets and things like that. Anyway, so I was listening to music all the way home, and I got back and I was making myself some dinner, and I had my little phone there with the videos playing, and I like this German heavy metal band called Running Wild, and they're famous for pirate metal.
Mhm.
Everybody goes, "Oh, Elstrom are the best." Fuck Elstrom. Fuck you, Alstrom. You were not the best. You certainly weren't the first. Running Wild are the first and the best pirate metal ever, and I will fight anybody that says otherwise. However, they do a song called "The Battle of Waterloo," which is about the Battle of Waterloo, and not one person, many people have done a compilation, like a thing where they've taken scenes from the movie Waterloo. Forgot the name of the main actor in it now. Rod Steiger was in it, and Christopher Plummer was playing Wellington, and Rod Steiger was Napoleon.
Yes.
And they show you the Battle of Waterloo from the movie The Battle of Waterloo, which was a hugely expensive movie to make. Why was it a hugely expensive movie to make? Because they have thousands and thousands and thousands of soldiers. I think it was the German army or the Belarusian army or something like that they had, and they had all of these guys, like, the cavalrymen, the horsemen, hundreds and hundreds. Like, there's a shot of the Scots Greys, like from that famous poster, charging, and of course it looks real because it is real. I mean, all right, the close-ups of the guys on the horse was a bit crap, but because it was just actors sort of pretending to be on horses, which wasn't great when they were. But when the camera sort of pans out and you've got thousands of soldiers, it just looked amazing. And they'll never be able to do that really with CG, not the sort of close-ups and the this and the that. So maybe, we could do, like, why am I saying all of this is because, like, we're spending hundreds and tens of millions on CGI, but if somebody went away and made a Battle of Waterloo, and I don't know what Ridley Scott's version is going to be like, but do something like that. Or Spartacus was another one where they used the Spanish army, and you watch, like, from the Spartacus's point of view as the Romans arrive, and of course these are all real soldiers, and they're all sort of running along, and you see, like, the Romans columns turn into blocks of squares, and of course because these men are real soldiers, they know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, that stuff looks amazing. And now it's me that got sidetracked.
I'm sorry. You're right. It is we this was a question that you and I were talking about in regards to what kind of productions will be made? Can they be made? Do you have to go to foreign countries now to get these productions made? Are we going to see casts of thousands anymore? Are historical films going to be made? And those traditionally in these historical films, especially they're these big battles, which we tend to watch, which we are reviewing a lot, do require thousands of extras. I mean, Darth Plato and I watched a bunch of movies on Gettysburg, on different actions that were taking place where thousands of actors had to be there, and those were reenactors who showed up. But if
Mm.
those reenactors didn't exist, Russ, if those guys weren't dedicated to be reenactors, you would have had to probably pay tons of money in equity, right, Russ, to get all those extras. Think of 1,000 extras in the course of one day, how much that cost. And then maybe you'll be filming for a month or 2 just to get a certain number of shots.
And I think, to answer you, yeah, you're absolutely right. And certainly what they used to do in the old days was just go to somewhere like Slovakia and employ the Slovakian army. That's was the done thing if you wanted to do that. But I think, to your point about historical movies, um, my fear is, at the moment, and this nonsense phase of our lives this woke politically correct phase will pass. It will get back to some sort of parity, but we're not there yet. And the problem that you have, I've not seen either of them. Big Joe says he loves Halt and
Halt
Catch Fire. I
it's
ain't
the
seen
same
those.
it's the same film. Halt and Catch Fire is one film.
Oh, right, okay. I haven't seen either of them or
Lee
it. I
Pace is in it.
don't even know it, Joe. So I've been shamed online. Yeah,
No,
I
no,
think
no,
that
no, no,
the
it's fine.
problem
I
with
just
with
mentioned it.
historical movies, especially Western historical movies, is that as a woke filmmaker or somebody who has a social conscience, or even somebody that's trying to get some fucking money to make a film that has to then pretend that he's woke to get the money, Western history is inherently problematical to these people, because ultimately, right, what did Alexander the Great do? What did he do? What did he do, Aram? What did he do?
He fought.
Yeah, he conquered the world, didn't he?
Mhm. And he created one of the largest, let's say, nations.
Empires.
Yeah,
eh,
empires,
up
yes.
up to that point in history. But if you are working in Hollywood today, he's just a racist that went across the sea and killed a load of brown people.
He also was known for famous actions. When I say actions, like, military actions.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting the Gordian knot, Gargamella,
Yes.
Issus, all those sorts of things. Even managed to conquer Afghanistan, which is, well, beat Afghanistan. Whether he conquered it or not is debatable. What's my point? My point is that he's going to say, but he's just a racist who went over and beat up a load of brown people, right? Nothing to do with the fact that they were brown was irrelevant to Alexander the Great. He was justifying his invasion and his conquest because all he wanted was the money and the empire, so people would remember him forever, and we do. But that's the problem that you've kind of got with these type of movies. How are you gonna remake Zulu? How are you gonna remake that film, which was like
You
a really
definitely
heroic?
could never remake Zulu.
Well, yeah, but they would, but they were, I'm sure they would, but they would probably reframe it in a way that that the film wasn't the original film wasn't. That shit happened. That was real. It was a really heroic thing that those guys did. But the fact that they were there in the first place would be seen as a terrible, terrible imperial thing, and we should be punished for it. And that's just kind of where we're at the moment. So I do kind of worry about historical dramas. So that's a further back. Like you can do a sort of contained thing in Rome because the Romans went into the east. Certainly, they did go to the east, but most of their stuff, or a lot of their stuff, was confined to Europe and maybe North Africa. So it's basically Romans invading France, or Romans invading England, or Romans invading Germany, or Romans invading. I know where Dacia is. Is that Hungary? Darth Player will know where Dacia is. Anyway, Eastern Europe. So basically, it's white people beating up white people, and I'm sure that that's absolutely fine. But yeah, there we go.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at what somebody said, and I guess maybe it is true. So I guess maybe I can relate to it because I am one. Mike Alita says Daniel Henney brought me to Wheel of Time. Me too, Darth. Uh, Mike Alito. I'm thinking of Darth Vader for some reason. Rogue Thinker says Wheel of Time sounds like a series about cougars chasing hot guys, just like the books, right? Well, you know something, Rogue Thinker? If they had made a version of Wheel of Time where it was cougars chasing hot guys, this would have gotten a lot of attention. And Rogue Thinker, thank you for inspiring me. Maybe we need a fantasy, high fantasy story of cougars chasing hot guys. Would you guys watch that? Um, Russ, any thoughts?
I'm not going to comment on my love of milfs.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about before we end the show. I've got so incredibly
You've got
distracted
a
today.
super chat.
What?
Mm.
Oh my god, really?
Hmm.
Phew. Oh my god. Um Gary says Russ can always make a triple X version of with plenty of half naked chicks and bloody violence.
If I was the producer, Gal, 100%, like I really think that the trash that I wrote does have a particular sort of USP, and it is sort of like it's pretty violent and it's pretty full on, but it was based in historical facts. Like they did fight topless. That was kind of the point. That was kind of the sort of thrill, because female gladiators were not considered like a big deal. It's, like you used to have these girls, blindfolded trying to fight each other, and then they'd have them literally fighting pygmies that they'd found somewhere, little dwarf men, and all this sort of thing. They were a joke. It was a warm up act, and it was only Amazon and Achillea, for example, who did that amazing fight. That's why it was such an amazing thing because they had a statue made of them. But by and large, they were a sideshow, and it was sexualized, 100%, in the same way that the men gladiators were sexualized. But anyway, we move on.
Yeah, and Blazing Asian, thank you for the $5 super chat. That is so generous of you. Thank you, Blazing Asian, for that. Blazing Asian says, "What has been your favorite movie of the year so far?" Mine is Sisu. Looking forward to David Fincher's The Killer in November. Cheers. Wow, my favorite film so far, I would have to say it's Oppenheimer. Um, I love that film. I can't say enough about it. I do like movies about historical figures, guys. I love that. And I do like that he had a very sexual nature. I like seeing men, want to have love. Like I like that. And that's why Spider-Man might be my favorite one of my favorite characters because he's always trying to like have this romance with somebody. He's always in search of love. And I kind of do like that. So and also I do like controversial films. Oppenheimer is very, very controversial, and I love that. Russ, what
It's not
about
out yet. I'm pretty certain my favorite film of this year is going to be Expendables 4.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be an amazing film, Russ.
I
It's
can't wait. And, it's got Megan Fox in it.
I love Megan Fox. I thought she could have been Wonder Woman, at some point, just between you and I. I
Hmm.
thought she would have been great.
She's probably not tall enough. I don't know how tall Megan Fox. She's quite tiny, I think.
Well,
Leanne
you
knows
just
her. They
one of
did a
these
film
skills
together
that are
called
like
Rogue.
this big, right,
Yeah, but
Russ?
you don't want that for Wonder Woman, do you? She's got to be statuesque. Look, Gal Gadot is the perfect Wonder Woman. I
Mhm.
know we all love Linda Carter. Sorry, Gal Gadot slaps.
Well, I think Linda Carter, might have been the first, modern version of Wonder Woman that we had,
Look,
and
you're
I
always
think
going to
she
have
did a
this,
good
aren't
job.
you? It's like it's sacrilege, but I think Cavill's better than Reeve. Sorry, I do. And I grew up. I saw that Superman the movie in the cinema. I don't know. I think 12 or 13 times. My mum had to take me to Hounslow West to go. I love that film. Superman's my favourite character of all time. I've said this before. But those movies are old and they're dated. And Reeves' performance was brilliant, but his performance is still in an old and dated movie. Cavill's wasn't. Cavill slapped. He was the best, is the best, and they'll have to go another 40 years before they top him.
Well,
I really, I really, really believe that. I thought the guy. I love you, Henry.
I also think it's important to note that we're talking about a different, century.
Mm,
So, let's be honest about this and be very clear that in the 1970s, which was the previous century, for what that was, Reeve was an incredible Superman.
absolutely.
But Superman, a modern Superman, one that we believe that could exist today, I think Cavill represents that. And
Mm,
we needed to see a modern Superman. We needed to see that modernization. He could not be like previous Superman. It doesn't make any sense. We've
no,
grown and we need to see more modern Superman.
don't get me on a Snyder Cut rant. But what I will say, but just, and I'm not going to say any more on it. That's where I think um, James Gunn and gang are making a terrible mistake because they're going to go back to the golly gee whiz Miss Lane Superman, and
I
we're
don't think
over it.
it's gonna work.
It ain't going to work. It's not going to work. I've said it before. Now is your Snyder time. Now is you when you want your deconstruction of these characters. That's what we need now. It ain't going to happen unless he was at the Bang Studios doing the animated thing. But it's a mistake. Anyway, moving
Can
swiftly on.
Can everybody just let me know what your favorite movie of the year so far is, in the chat too? Just go ahead and say what your favorite movie is, Blazing Asian. I'm gonna check out Sisu. I've heard a lot of good things about Sisu,
Me
and he
too.
talks about, The Killer in November. Now that film, of course, Russ, you were telling me about it. Of course, it's the film with Fassbinder, and you know how much I
Yeah, I mean he's one of those, isn't he? He's
love him.
what's not to love about Fassbender. He's such a good actor,
Oh,
such a good actor.
oh,
Do you know I still haven't seen fucking Macbeth? I've got to watch Macbeth. I'm good. You know what? When we're finished, I'm going to do that. Yeah, Mario actually does name the film that I have seen this year, which is my favorite, which is Extraction 2. Of course, I've got Rebel Moon coming out as well. I'm sure that's going to be well. Rebel Moon's going to be one of two things: the greatest thing ever, or a complete miss. That's what I think.
Yeah, and Retro Nerd Girl says most people seem to be really dissatisfied with big studio films right now. Anyway, maybe this is a good thing for entertainment in general. Yeah, this is a good point, and maybe it was just it had things had gone too far in one direction. People don't want to see these films that are overproduced and don't have a lot of substance to them, right? Mighty Orbit says yes, exploitation. Why not? Why not? Let's go ahead and see
If
if
not for sexploitation and black exploitation, we wouldn't have Pam Grier, would we?
that's right.
She
Uh
was in a female gladiator movie in the late '60s called The Arena
she was.
with Margaret Markov. Yeah, and
I'm
they
gonna have
remade it in the 2000s with two Playboy models. No, they were fucking brilliant. These two girls, like, they worked it, and I forget their name, but they were really famous Playboy models as well. You know, they were not like, Miss July '92. I mean, they were top playmates of the year. These two, Karen, somebody or another. Anyway,
I was like,
but
"Oh, you remember their names?"
yeah, I spoke to them, and yeah, um, and they were so pissed off with the director, who's a Russian guy called Timur Bekmatimov or something like that. I spoke to him as well, and the way that the final fight is edited is the camera's all over the fucking place. It's like it's shaky. It's not even shaky cam. It's this sort of camera movement, and the two girls were so annoyed that they had worked and worked and worked and worked and worked on that final fight. Like, literally, it was, they were so proud of themselves that they got all of it right, and they said, yeah. And then when we saw it, we were so disappointed with what he did with it. 2001, Arena 2001.
I'm
Yes.
gonna watch that. And Irene, thank you for letting us know you're reading another Robert Jordan book. Blazing Nathan said he's glad to be born in America and not Vietnam. Yeah, we're glad you're here too, Blazing Asian. We are glad that you are here with us. And certainly there's a lot of giggles going on. I know there's another super chat coming up, which we're gonna get to. Yeah, I'm gonna check it. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted by stuff. So Blazing Asian, we're still gonna go forward. Thank you, Mikey Lito, for having some faith there. And certainly I wanted to say we are going to talk about Ahsoka. Oh my goodness gracious. We are going to do that. So guys, let me just get to the second super chat. And I also want to mention people were talking about Oppenheimer too. Someone wants to see more Mills. Yeah, right, Bonzo. Let's see what we can do with that. Oppenheimer. I think honestly, Spartacus did that. But because there's a famous scene in Spartacus season 1 where the ladies get to choose their own gladiators, and I'm like, was it really like this, or is it a fantasy? So Russ, was it really like that, or is it fantasy?
It would have been a dirty little secret, but 1,000%. I mean, they used to go around collecting the blood and the sweat of gladiators as a aphrodisiac, and absolutely, they were sex symbols, absolute sex symbols, no doubt about it. They were despised because they were slaves, and that was like a big no-no. However, they were also kings of the world. Like, you could earn more in one fight than a Roman legionary would earn in 5 years. I mean, these guys were the David Beckhams of the what's his name, Tom Brady of their days, Michael Jordan of their day. If you were a super gladiator, you had it, man. You were living the life of Brian. Yeah, women were throwing themselves at them. Yeah.
Because even in the series Spartacus, when Whitfield is standing up there next to Jai Courtney, Whitfield's got a little smug smile on his face because he knows the women, like, of course, all like every woman and anyone who likes men is eyeballing him, and he knows they're eyeballing him. So he has a little, he's for somebody who is a, let's say a fighter in bondage, he also has a little smugness about him. And I thought that was funny. And it's like he knows that they're looking at him
Mm.
for a particular reason. They're not just sort of like looking like, he's like, I know I'm the hottest guy in this room, and I know you guys are all over it. And but it was like it didn't feel like a bad thing though. So it was a guilty pleasure. It was definitely a guilty
Yeah,
pleasure.
upper class Roman women wouldn't tell anybody that they were doing this, but of course they were all, if you could get away with it, they would absolutely do it. Indeed, um, I seem to remember that one woman was found having a threesome in Pompeii. and they were sort of all caught together, not in media res while they were shagging, but there was certainly like a gladiator cell with two men in it and a woman in it, so she was getting sandwiched by gladiators.
Gosh, what a great discussion today.
Mhm.
Joe Tyson says Oppenheimer. Yeah, me too. And Retro Nurgle also says Oppenheimer was my fave this year too. Definitely, it was so. It was they made Oppenheimer the whole story very fascinating and magical. I even said quantum physics is back. It's back. Like nobody says that, right? No one's like, yeah, quantum physics. I'm like, yeah,
Sam
it's
Beckett does.
I want to get a shirt or something. It's like it's back, like bring the electrons and the, like the protons and neutrons and everything. It's all back. Um, yeah. So I got excited about it. Who knew science could be so exciting? I want to thank Irene Jobson, who is always so generous. Says, love you guys. XOXOX, triple X
I love you too,
and
Irene.
2 O's between it. So, Irene, thank you for the $5 super chat. Just so generous. Thank you, Irene. Love you right back, lady. Hope you were well today too, Irene. She says she dressed as Wonder Woman once for Halloween. Everyone at work kept talking about Linda Carter. LOL.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, because they have good memories of Linda Carter. She's a pleasant lady, and certainly that's fine too. And it was a different era, Russ, in the 70s when we were starting to see, might have been the first time that a lot of these actors who played these lead characters as superheroes, of course, it started that whole thing, but the first time that we really associate specific actors with these roles more so, or even becoming away from the comics and saying, when I think about Superman, I think of this actor versus, well, this is Superman, here he is, here's the comic, that's what he looks like. you know Trying to fit a comic version of a character and find a human being that can fit that is not the easiest task. It isn't. I think one person in particular, maybe two people in particular, who really seem to have fit the comic book roles of what I consider to be superheroes are Hemsworth and Momoa.
Yeah,
They
and ODJ. To be fair, I mean, he looks and acts exactly like Tony Stark from the comic. I mean, they were brilliant. That Marvel films were brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate Marvel films. I think they used to be great. I just think, as I've said so many times, stop at Endgame and just coming soon, like the X in a circle and the four in a circle. That's it. And then you take a breath. You think, right, okay, now what are we gonna do? We've got 2 years. We need to get going on this stuff. But they didn't, and we are where we are.
Absolutely. And Joe Tyson says people have problem with Megan Fox's toe thumb. Do they?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be looking at her fucking toe thumb if she was my girlfriend, Joe. I'm
What does
telling you
that
that right
mean?
now.
I think
She's
she's
got funny
perfect.
hands. Apparently she's got strange hands.
So what?
Well,
I'm
exactly.
perfectly
Who's looking at Megan Fox's hands? Like, literally no one.
I thought she's also really nice. This is she's it's the whole thing. When she first appeared in that Transformers film, I'm like, she needs to get out of this Transformers film and they showcase her more. But either Hollywood at the time didn't want to focus on that, but she deserved a lot more as
She
far as
had a
I'm
she fell
concerned.
out with who's the guy? The guy that directed it, Michael Bay. She fell out with Michael Bay and the producer, Bruckheimer.
Well, thank you, Mikey Lito. Thank you for letting me know that. Yes, I do see that it is starred. Thank you. I have it set so that it is starred. You don't have to have it starred in your chat. So if you don't choose the star choice, it doesn't automatically go there. I think you have to put that in settings, but just so you guys know. But thank you, Mikey Lito. Yeah, I knew it was there. I just wanted to um I guess go crazy with what we were talking about. Oh, Mario Lopez is not confident that Rebel Moon will go well. Okay, Mario.
No, no, he's saying I'm sure Rebel Moon will make Disney look so
Oh,
incompetent.
oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
that was
was
the
confused by
leak
it.
that came out of Netflix. Mario was like they think they've got a Star Wars killer on their hand. I think we spoke about a little bit about it last week because you've got so many disaffected Star Wars fans who are angry man babies that Star Wars didn't grow old with them. Which I thought was I watched a video from the other side, video that was attacking nerdrotic, and not really not attacking them, but really just making an observation on their particular stance on Star Wars and why this particular individual didn't agree with it. And one of the lines he came up with, and I thought, you know what, I tend to agree with what's been with the drinker and nerdrotic and all those people, like what's been done to Star Wars. I'm on their camp. The one thing this attack guy did say, he goes, yeah, they're just, they say they're not gatekeepers, but they are, and they're just old men that are pissed off that Star Wars didn't get old with them. And I thought, you know what, he's actually got a point. What would I think of Star Wars now if I was 15? Would I be looking at it completely different? But what's my point, Mario? My point is that there are a lot of disappointed old men that are gatekeepers, and what Snyder seemed to want to have given them, because this was originally a Disney pitch, was that grown up Star Wars, like that grown up thing for the likes of me and you and everybody else that doesn't like, or the vast majority of current day Star Wars. But Netflix said they've got a Star Wars killer on their hand. We shall see.
I'm looking forward to it, Mario. I'm so glad that you are also excited for Rebel Moon. Brogu says, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, Brogu. We'll see you later. Say hello to Grogu for me. And Mario also says Extraction 2 was
Yeah, I
his
saw that and
favorite.
it reminded me. I was trying to think what's my favorite one that I've seen so far, and that was it. Yeah.
Mike Alito says he doesn't know whether he has seen his favorite one yet. Interesting. And Irene said she still wants to see, she hasn't seen a lot, but Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was great. So glad you like that. That's great. Planet 6228. Hey, Planet 628. Welcome to Sunday Brunch. It says Turtles. Yes. A lot of people liked Turtles this year. And I saw it and I liked it. So I don't know how everybody else felt about it. I felt like some of the animation could have been a little bit like crisper, but overall I really liked it. I liked Turtles. It is an animation, guys. So thank you for letting us know, Planet 628. Rogue Thinker says, can't allow this to pass. I love Cavill and his best movies, The Count of Monte Cristo, but Reese is a better. Okay, that's fair. Nolan could never write a good. Aw. All right, Rogue Thinker. Thank you for letting us know. We all have different opinions here, and certainly we value yours as well. Um, Michael Lita says Guardians was good, and also Oppenheimer. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. I'm getting to it. Tom. I'm almost down there. I was just trying to throw in some more comments before I read this one. And of course, it's Mikey Lido. Mikey Lido, how are you? Again, thank you for the super chat. Okay, Russ, what do you have to say about Ahsoka? Yes, we were trying to get to this almost 40 minutes ago, guys. It is me. It was my fault. Yeah, and I just want to tell you, Rogue Thinker, you're right. He doesn't look exactly like Aquaman from the comic, but he does look like a superhero. In other words, um, how could you make a human being look like a superhero if you could? And I feel like he does look like a superhero, just the
Look,
way he
I
looks.
don't care what anybody says about Zack Snyder. Well, I kind of do because I get the hump about it. But his casting choices were fucking outstanding. I don't care what Ezra Miller has done. I do care. Whatever he's done in his real life, he was good in those Snyder films. He was great. They all looked like they were supposed to look. I thought anyway.
Yeah, and I'm glad, Rogue Thinker. Thank you for bringing up Meg 2. People liked it. It was a popular film. We need films like Meg 2.
Who made it? What studio made it?
I don't know. Somebody please let us know, the studio. Yes, Rogue Thinker. What I mean is that when you look at Jason Momoa, he's the perfect physique and build and size for what you would expect to be a superhero. And I honestly going to say the same thing about Hemsworth, although Hemsworth, still has to kind of build himself up a little bit to get to that point. But it's not always easy to find an individual who will look like a comic book character.
Mm.
And I think that those two guys. Well, what do you think? In your opinion, do you think his physique is that of a superhero? I
His
think it
physique is,
is.
yeah, but he looks nothing like Aquaman. But
No,
now,
and
but
we're
now
talking.
he's all. I imagine, and I haven't seen the comics for a while, but I imagine he's like almost like Nick Fury. Who used to be a white dude with an eye patch, and now he's a black dude with an eye patch because everybody relates Nick Fury to Samuel L. Jackson, and I'm sure in the comics, now he looks more like Jason Momoa. I could be wrong, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what they often do, isn't it? Like if the character is the breakout like Nick Fury, then the comics will copy that.
yeah. And are they going to copy Jason Momoa? I have no idea. What I am saying is that his physique and the way he looks, I would cast him as a superhero. Like I would say, yeah, he'd be a great superhero. So, we're getting a lot of people who are being cast as superheroes who I don't think are appropriate casts for superheroes. So, but I think Momoa and Hemsworth are just so perfect for that genre. So, and also Henry Cavill.
Mm.
Um, what do you think, Rogue Thinker? But you said that he's a lot like Lobo or Cal Drago. Maybe those are also two other characters that he looks like. But
Well,
do you
Khal Drogo was the bloke he played in Game of Thrones,
Mhm.
and the
Oh,
rumor
yeah, I
is that
remember.
he's getting recast as Lobo in the Gunverse, which isn't going to happen anyway.
Yeah, and
I'm more leaning towards that's never going to happen now.
exactly. Um, all right, I promise we're going to talk about Ahsoka episode 5. Do you want to go first for us?
Yeah, sure. What do I think of Ahsoka, Mikey? Uh, on the whole, the first two episodes, the first bit of it was garbage. Last week was not the one just gone, the one before. That was some good shit. I really, really enjoyed that, and they really had to go some to follow it up with episode 5, which I think was called Shadow Warrior. Was it? I think, if I'm correct,
Mhm.
can't remember. Um, what did I think of this episode? I really, really loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It looks and feels like Star Wars. Um, if I was a little bit disappointed with what happened in the World Between Worlds, like I wasn't kind of sure what the point of that was. And to Mikey's point here, I'm sure there's much more going on there than he and I are aware of, given the Clone Wars background to it. But I did watch a Thor Skywalker that says that Filoni has effectively retconned Clone Wars now with Ahsoka the White, which I don't understand that reference. I saw that she was wearing white clothes afterwards. I didn't think anything of it, but apparently that's a thing. It was brilliant seeing Hayden Christensen as Anakin again. I was kind of hoping that they would have said like something about the future being possible and future possibly changing, just sort of like throw it in there. That's kind of like whether they do anything with it or not. I just really think that they need to give themselves a way out of this. They need to throw their fans a crumb that this disaster may not happen. And I think the War Between Worlds is the place to do it. So I was disappointed not to see that. Didn't really understand the lesson. That was I didn't kind of get why was he attacking her? What did she have to learn for all this? Or not to give up? Is Ahsoka a sort of character that gives up? I don't know. I don't know. So whilst I enjoyed it, I wasn't kind of sure what the point of it was, but I was willing to forgive it because I'm enjoying the show so much. I'm enjoying, and I also thought of alternative casting for Balin. By the way, I think Vincent Regan could step into that role quite nicely if they choose to do that. So yeah, Mikey, I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I'm really enjoying the show. I was it's just of course what I was saying about Mark Rolston in the first episode, right? And he's a middle-aged white guy, so he's going to be an absolute idiot and get everybody killed. And I knew exactly that when I saw the person of color female captain of the rebel squadron that arrives, I knew that she was instantly going to be completely competent and absolutely able to handle the situation. And of course she was. Disney have got to get over that. They've got to start they've got to stop with that shit because it just takes me personally, and I'm sure many other people out of it straight away. Oh yeah, Lady of Color, she's going to be awesome. Oh yes, look at her, she's in complete control of her ship. Mark Rolston, idiot, and that it's taking me out of it, and that annoys me. Maybe it's just me. Yeah, love it. It's turned it round for me. I'm not bothered about the Clone Wars stuff because I kind of know what happened in the Clone Wars. I wish I'd watched it now. I wish I was like a massive nerd and I had all of that history because I'm sure when you were watching like them at that battle that you've seen before in the Clone Wars, not the Mandalore one where he wasn't at, but the Geonosis one or whatever battle they were fighting together. Seeing that in live action must have been amazing if you're a big Clone Wars fan. So I hope that answered your question, man.
Excellent. Excellent. And we also have another super chat here. Um, from Darth Plato for $2. Thank you, Darth Plato, for the super chat. So appreciate it. Darth Plato says Ahsoka episode 6 needs to break the internet. Russ, do you think it will?
No, I don't. I think they had a big chance here with doing something that would, if not, I'm not going to say undermine or replace the sequels, but we had this conversation. We spoke for about 3 hours one day, didn't we? And I
Yes.
and I really think they need to do something with one possible. Yes, now the future could be changed. They just need a little throwaway line in there somewhere that will give people hope. Because as we march relentlessly on towards the sequel trilogy, people aren't going to sit still for it. Well, I mean, they may or they may not. But I think if you gave your original gatekeepers, angry people that Star Wars didn't grow old with them or whatever the quote was, give them a little bit of a crumb, which you never have to act on. You never have to do it. But now we know that it's possible that this might not happen, and people will be happy with that.
Yeah, let's see what happens because it seems like every single, like this series needs to break the internet. Something needs to break the internet, something needs to happen. And, you know, truth be told, I don't know what's going on or what's going to happen with it because they seem to be moving away from what the series. I guess maybe we all thought we were going to see Thrawn, but I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe we won't even see Thrawn in this. Maybe it'll be season 2, right? If there's a season 2 for Ahsoka.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'll tell you what else was good about this episode as well was the fight choreography was the best I've seen so far. That was really good. I mean, I know Sabine wasn't in it, but actually working with Hayden, Rosario looked like she knew what she was doing and wasn't it? It wasn't as fast as as the prequels. I'll give it that. But again, I think what Filoni's going for is sort of a 70s Star Wars. I think he's going for that feel because the lightsaber duel really did look like it had come out of Empire Strikes Back. It was a marked improvement on Star Wars, but it still wasn't up to prequel level. But it was still, it had that 80s, 70s, 80s. It was pretty slow but pretty awesome at the same time. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And the
abs-
young Ahsoka was good as well. I really liked this episode. I really liked it. The best 2 episodes so far.
and we also have Just a Brown Girl who's here. Hi, Just a Brown Girl.
How's
And that
it?
hope you are well says, agree, Russ, about the point of it, the lesson, most beautifully shot episode so far. Darth Plato also talks about the first battle was Ryloth, the second, the siege of Mandalore.
Yeah, sure that was in the cartoon, right? The Ryloth battle. So seeing that real must have been amazing for people who loved that
And
show.
absolutely. And then Mario Lopez says Anakin and young Ahsoka was the best part of the last episode. It made me remember when Star Wars was great.
That's right, and that's why I keep banging on about this one possible future line. If they can slide that in there somewhere, I tell you what, Mario, Darth Plato, if they'd have slid that line in there this episode, then fuck yes, the internet would explode. That the episode 6 would have exploded the internet, but they haven't really. Everyone was hoping, weren't they, that the world between worlds was kind of like the get out clause of if not retconning the sequel, at least having an alternative universe or something like that. And they've brought the world between worlds in, and they haven't really done anything with it. So that is, like we don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be. I don't know. I don't know. But I was also going to ask actually for people who know Star Wars better than me, the Purgils. I thought they only lived in hyperspace. I didn't think they came out of hyperspace.
They do
Because
come out of hyperspace, yes.
right, there we go. So that was good.
Yeah, they live between the hyperspace lanes, so, they travel and then you can see them. They're
Yeah, and I really liked the change actually in Ahsoka. Like she seemed to be for the first time at the end of the show, or maybe this was Filoni's thing all along. She doesn't feel like a passenger in her own show anymore, and it has suddenly become the Ahsoka show with her actually making decisions. And the fact that they've got rid now of Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Hera character, she's kind of gone uh, back to wherever she came from, and it seems much more like her show. So yeah, I really liked it. Like they've done a good job. It's not Andor like great, but it's not shit. It's not like we you remember last year or whatever it was. Yeah, it was last year when it when we watched Kenobi, and it was just so remorselessly bad. It was just a juggernaut of junk. It was Kenobi crap. It was just abysmal on every level. And poor, you know, Ewan McGregor, such a brilliant actor, and delivering these lines with perfection. And you can almost see his nose wrinkling at the scent of that whiff of shit in the air because you just know that you're in a pile of shit. So yeah.
And Stubble says, I wonder if Jason Sedilla will have a similar future as that of Jason Solo in the expanded universe. It seems they might go that way, but it's early yet. Yeah, it's a good question. Um, Rogue Thinker says, is it really the world between worlds? It's hard to get to. It was just a dream in her head. And I think a lot of people kind of wondered that too, although the platforms they were standing on, it was supposed to be, I guess, the world between worlds. Or maybe it was a dream. It's a good question.
No, I don't think so, because if it had have been a dream, right? Why would Anakin have said to her, "I wasn't at this battle. I wasn't here." That's not the sort of thing that happens in a dream. It seemed that there was a point to this, and he was there to teach us some sort of weird lesson that seems to be don't give up. But not knowing the Ahsoka character as well as anybody else, I don't know if she is a quitter or not. I wouldn't have thought so, but it seemed to me, fight for your life would seem to be the message. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't very clear. And I've written a couple of things in my time, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what is he what are you telling me here? Why have you showed me this thing that everyone has been hoping for that we're going to see? What's the point of this? And I can't work it out myself.
Well, that's very introspective, and I think a lot of people were thinking that. Um, but we are down to the 2 hours already, Russ. Um, and it's time to end the show. I can't believe it. But what a show this has been. Irene says everybody who died or seemed like they died didn't actually over and over. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, Stubble says I give it a 25% chance that Jason will be Ahsoka's apprentice by the end of the season.
Yeah, it's a good spot because I keep calling him Vader. Anakin says to her, she goes, "Would you even want a Padawan?" And she's like, "Well, I guess so." So that's set up and payoff right there. So yes, I think it's more than a 25% there, Stubble.
Absolutely. And guys, make sure you check out Just a Brown Girls Network on
Support independent filmmakers.
absolutely. And Mario says it wasn't a dream because Jason could hear the
Yeah, the
lightsaber.
lightsabers, yeah, yeah. So I think I was listening to Thor Skywalker actually, and he was basically saying he thinks that people are just sort of hating on it because they're hating on it, and they've been a little bit disingenuous. Because I think if you're a neutral person, which I know I'm not, I like Star Wars a lot, but I think there is a lot of people nowadays that just hate Disney for what they've done. And it doesn't matter if it's quality like Andor or quality like these last couple of episodes of Ahsoka. They just gonna hate on it, and they're gonna find reasons as to why it's completely shit. But this video that I sent you, from the opposite point of view, that guy was like tearing holes in Star Wars that I'd kind of forgotten about. So you see these, certain people like really attacking Disney for sort of like continuity errors and things like that. Now, how could this happen? And blah blah blah. And then he just cuts to, well, how did this happen? And it's got, do you remember your mother? Just images, really. She was beautiful. She had a very kind smile. How do you remember that? She died giving birth to you. That is a massive continuity error. You've blown your own continuity right there. But nobody ever mentions that when they're attacking Disney. And I think this guy's point. Maybe put the link in the description to it, Aram, if you can, because it was really interesting to me to listen to somebody who was erudite, who wasn't being mean. he wasn't being horrible and going, these people are losers and they're this and that. He was just saying, yeah, this is what I think, and I think, you know, Disney Star Wars does have some good to it. I really quite enjoyed listening to the different perspective, and I think we could all spend a little bit of time doing that as long as it's respectful, which I believed this was. I mean, yeah, okay, look, it was a bit catty in places. Like I said, people are pissed off that Star Wars didn't get on with them. I understand that, but this guy looks at the arguments projected by, I don't know, Ryan Ken or whoever who are really really vehemently anti-Disney, and he uses examples from the sequels and the OT that are equally as poorly thought out, badly done, and all the rest of it, but they get a pass and Disney doesn't. So
Mhm.
it
Did you
was
send it
interesting
to
stuff. I did send it to you, yes.
me? Yeah.
Just because you never read my texts anymore. You don't love me anymore.
No,
That's what it is.
no, I don't see it. I don't see it.
I sent it to you ages ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It was, yeah, I get it now. Star Wars fan suck.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I realized where it was. I thought you sent it to me today or something
No,
like
no, 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 no. It was weeks ago.
Okay. Okay, so let me put that in there. And Russ, um, where can people find you?
Nobody cares. More importantly, where can people find you, RM?
Well, you guys can find me here on Positive Fandom, where we do shows like this Sunday brunch on Sundays at 10:30. Going to be doing more historical movie reviews with Darth Plato, Wheel of Time reviews. I've got SEAL Team, the final season coming up. Also have the final season of The Crown coming up. So there's a lot going on with Positive Fandom, but also a lot going on with the Brrrr Network. As you guys know, I do Ladies of the PGS with Lorena on Monday nights. Also going to be doing even more William Friedkin dedicated TCM watch parties. The next one is going to include The Exorcist. So that's coming up. And so much more, guys. Comic Con in New York is going to be coming up next month. So I'm looking forward to that. I also put I put it in the chat, Russ. Uh,
Nice one. Yeah, check it out, guys. It's really interesting. It's not annoying. It's no one's attacking you if you he's not attacking you if you happen to feel the same way as I do, right? It's just really interesting to hear somebody from another perspective.
It is, and certainly no one, let's say, other than this guy, has really looked in and kind of called out people's arguments in that manner because the art of debate and supporting yourself with examples is just doesn't exist anymore. So he's doing that. He's supporting it with examples, and of course, there is going to be there, as I think Irene said it best. Um, Although she didn't use examples, I think she summed it up. Everybody who died seemed like they died, didn't actually over and over. So if we're going to use died or whatever the cause is, we do see it repeated in many IPs. So no one is immune to this, right, Russ?
I
No
guess
one
so.
is no one is immune to it, but it is interesting to see that, guys. And as Michaelito says, yeah, guys, go ahead and watch. Go ahead and form opinion. If it's the books, read it and then form the opinion, whatever it is. Thank you so much, everybody, for the generosity in the super chats today. You guys are so wonderful. Blazing Asian for the $5 super chat. Irene Jobson, Mikey Lido for $5, and Darth Plato for $2. You guys, I just love doing the show and seeing you all here on a Sunday. Oh, you are welcome, Mark Spector's avatar. Thank you, everybody, for being here and sharing your opinions, guys. And it's just so much fun to hear all of your comments and concerns. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Talia. Aw, I feel the same way, Irene. And Myra says there is no sense of danger anymore in movies. That's an interesting thought to end. And Tom Junior Jackson says people find me everywhere. Guys, make sure you like and subscribe to Tom Junior Jackson's YouTube channel. He is part of the Brrrr Network family and certainly a collaborator, moderator, and friend here on Positive Fandom. So make sure you check him out as well. Thank you so much, Mario. I just want to thank everybody for the support and kindness here. So enjoy doing this show with you, Russ. It's always a pleasure, guys. Make sure you check out the Gladiatrix series. on Russ's Amazon link. Do that, please. And guys, remember, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care,
See you later,
everybody.
guys. Take care. Have a good one. Bye bye.